an artist. Now what?
Welcome to the return of the Box Office Artist podcast. My name is James. I am the Box Office Artist, and thank you for giving this a chance. We've been working so hard over the past month trying to put together an amazing podcast that we believe will help you, especially you who wants to be an artist. But we thought for this very first one, I'm going to be sitting down with my good friend, Mark Michael, and it's just a conversation between the two of us, talking about everything I've been through and the plans and the future for not just this channel, but all the channels we are putting together. We talked for a good 2 hours, and hopefully it'll be informative and enjoyable for you. So here it is. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully you guys will enjoy this very first Box Office Artist podcast.
Hello.
Let's talk. Hey, you wanna chat?
If you are ready to talk,
You wanna talk?
I am ready to talk.
I like to
you.
talk. It's okay.
I gotta tell you right now.
Oh, yeah.
I am very excited to meet you.
I'm full of excitement.
You do have Spanish blood, does that mean?
Well, we do, because Raiz, for those who don't know, Raiz is actually a Spanish name. So I'm from the Philippines, but there's not that many people who have the Raiz last name. However, if you go to Spain, there's a lot of people who have the Raiz last name. But people will notice that I don't say Raiz, I say Raiz. And there's a reason for that, because in grade 2, I went to my my teacher, and she goes, "How do you pronounce your name, James?" And I said, Raiz. And she says, "Raiz?" I'm like, "No, Raiz." She goes, "Rats?" Raiz is fine. Raiz is fine. That kind of stuck. After that.
Told me that.
I never told you that.
She actually say rats.
She said rats.
Say rats.
She said rats. Yeah, so Raiz is good.
Unless you know our family did the same, but yeah, man.
Well, the thing is, it turns my name into one syllable, and then so I could just 2 syllables. My name, James Raiz, and you can say it really fast, James Raiz.
And it's
James
into a fantastic hashtag.
Yes, that's
ago,
right. That's right.
Raise your game.
Raise your game. That's right. That's right.
This is what we do.
So that's right. It sounds like something similar to the English language.
Raise your game.
Raise.
Raise it.
That's right.
Give me a raise, James.
No. Maybe one day. Well, let's look at the views on this video, and then we'll see.
We'll renegotiate.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see what happens. You get paid? Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, man. Anyways, yeah. Let's get serious for a second.
Okay, sure.
So, basically, we're here to talk about the next phase of the Box Office Artist. You set it out in September.
Absolutely, yes.
You in your last video, you talked about how you're starting up 4 new channels. This is one of them.
Yes.
So you're gonna have 5 now. What's this about? What's the end game?
Okay. Well, I don't want to go into it too much, nor do I want this this particular podcast to be like a downer for everything. But it's a main part of my story, and as a part of the story that I've been living the past 3 years, but was never able to say it out of respect for my wife, and out of respect for my family, and out of respect for the viewers, because I did not want to build this channel, or my YouTube channel, or my influencer career off a tragedy. It's something that we didn't want to do. And it's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want people to follow me or my work because they were having sympathy for me, or what me and my family were going through at the time. But it did, all of this is because of my wife. And it was in 2018 that we found out my wife had cancer, and it was already stage 4. And a lot of times I think to myself, well, what would have happened if I caught it earlier? What would have happened if we caught it at stage 1 or stage 2? And we're trying to figure out why we didn't find out till it was stage 4. And there's no real answer for that. My wife did go to her check, so we just never caught it at the same time. And when you lose the love of your life, like nothing ever can replace that. Nothing can ever compensate for that. Let's just say that. And it never will. And my wife's always in my heart. But one thing that it can do is, at the very least, it can send a message to others. And that's why I'm even talking about it now. The only reason I'm talking about it now is because I believe it could help people in terms of a couple ways. Number one, for those who are my age or around in their 30s, late 30s, early 40s, you should check yourself out, And like, again, I don't know what would have happened if we found out earlier about her cancer. But it's too late for us, but maybe it's not too late for somebody who's watching this. Maybe they're at that age. Doesn't hurt to go to the doctor and get yourself checked out and see. You know, in my age, like colon cancer is a big thing. I had no friends who found out they had colon cancer at my age. Testicular cancer at my age, right? It's like, you don't know. And it never hurts to try to find out, because last thing you want for it to be too late, like it was for us. So that's one of the reasons why I'm making that public right now. And it's not like every video I'm going to be mentioning this. And to be honest, this might be the last time I talk about this, because I don't want people to think that, I'm trying to get sympathy again. And I'm not. But I am trying to send a message that it's not too late for you. And that at this time, you should really try to take care of yourself and take care of your family by checking yourself out. So if I could influence people in that way, then, maybe this wasn't all for nothing, at the end of the day. But also what I wanted to share was that message my wife gave to me, like I mentioned in the video, because there were many times after we found out that I could have stopped doing what I was doing. And there were many times where I would achieve something and I would think, okay, that's enough. And I wanted to stop. But every single time, it was my wife who told me to keep going. Keep going after it. Keep going for your dreams. It doesn't matter what she was going through. She said that we'll figure it out. But no matter how much time that she had, my time would hopefully be longer. And I would still need to support my family and still be an inspiration to my family. And what kind of inspiration would I be if I stopped going for my dreams at the same time? So that's one thing that she really, really hammered in home to me, that you got to keep going, no matter what she was doing. So that's why, like, I could have stopped altogether, right? And nobody would have said anything, for sure, right? Everyone would have understood. And in fact, I could have took an extra 6 months to a year or even longer after my wife passed to continue, and maybe I should be doing that. I don't know. But she always wanted me to continue doing what I was doing. And that's what I decided to do. I did take a few months off after everything happened. And, I found myself just kind of sitting at home, just watching TV, just trying to figure out what the next steps were, right? And it was fine when my kids were with me. And then they went back to school. And then I realized, let's just say it was tough. It was tough being home alone and just watching TV or even trying to draw on my own like that. Because, when you're out by yourself, you can't help but think. And the thing is, whenever I'm drawing, usually I'll have a podcast in my ear. Even more than music. I like podcasts better than music because I hear talking. And then I could just kind of, my mind zones out. And then I just concentrate on the talking. The drawing just kind of happens naturally. Mm-hmm. But for a while there, after my wife passed, of course, you can't stop thinking about it. So it was really, really hard. And then I thought about those messages, all those talks my wife and I had about what those next steps are and how I'm going to help my family. And then that's why I decided to go the direction that we're going right now. And I didn't want to wait anymore. Like, I definitely could have. Like I mentioned, I could have waited 6 months, a year, a couple of years. No one would have said anything. No one would have cared, to be honest. But it's a way to also help me keep going on and moving forward. And that's why I wanted to share that message that she gave me. Because it's a message that wasn't just for me. That could be for everybody. To keep going for your dreams, no matter what. We only have one life. And with my wife's passing, it also, sometimes we do feel like we're going to live forever, Sometimes we feel that way. You don't even think about it until something happens to someone that you're very close to, right? But now that it has, like I think to myself every day, what if this was the last day for me? I don't know. I could go out on the street right now. Or even I could be even sitting in the studio for all I know. Maybe a plane will come down. Maybe I live close to the airport, right? Very close to the airport here. The plane could just come and hit the house, right?
You have a meteor like in The Simpsons.
Yes, yeah,
Crunch.
a meteor. Yeah, you don't know.
Cut to credits.
That's the thing. That's the thing with this life. We don't know how long we have. We just don't. All we have is to live the best life we can while we're still here. And me, with my 3 children, who I love more than anything, I needed to make sure that if something does happen to me, that they're well taken care of, that everything's taken care of. And I made sure the last 3 months that was taken care of. But also that I leave that sort of legacy for them and that example for them. That no matter what the situation, you should still try to keep going, because this is all we have. This is all we have. I could just stay in my room and just cry for 2 years. I could do that. And again, nobody would probably say anything. Everyone would understand. But that's not how I want to live my life, because I don't know if that's all the life I'm going to have at the same time. It's a real realization of mortality, about how much longer we have, right? So whether that be, I'm going to live another, I'm in my 40s now. Technically I could live another 50, 60 years. Or it could be 40, could be 5, could be tomorrow, I don't know. But no matter how long I have, I realize that it's never as long as we think it's going to be. So why not live the best way I can? And the best way I can is not just for me, right? I'm not saying that I should go out and go party every day. That doesn't leave any legacy, right? That doesn't help anybody. The way I want to go out is by helping as many people as I can along the way. And that's why I decided to start all these channels. That's why I decided, okay, now it's about sharing that message with as many people as I can. And so that's what I want to do. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's why that's why I brought on you and Joe here to help me out. And to be honest, and like I told you, it helps me every day that you guys are here, kind of get through the day. And it makes my day fun. It helps me get my mind off things, and doing things like this, doing things like the podcast, it really helps a lot. And knowing that I'll be able to help a lot of people along the way, especially kids that were like me, like my 20-year-old self, or like even my 10-year-old self, who didn't know that you could actually make a living doing this, or to help the parent who sees that their child is creative, but has no idea if that child can have a good living doing that, right? Yeah. If that's knowledge I could share, and it's not a way to change anyone's mind. It's not a way to, it's just information. Giving people as much information as I can. It's up to them if they want to follow it or not. But it's my way of helping, and it's my way of living. And that's why I'm doing this at the end of the day. So yeah, and that's all because of my wife. Like, her legacy will live on through this. Through many ways. She's helped so many people throughout her life. Like I mentioned before, she was a nurse. She used to go to schools and give speeches on safety and all of that, right? She worked for the city, and she helped the elderly. She helped new moms. She helped so many people. And really, that's really her legacy too, like there. But if I could share that message with everybody, then she'll continue to live on that way. So,
well, brother, you and I knowing each other for as long as we have,
right?
And we never really. This actually is the first time we're having a deep conversation.
Yeah.
About everything that's happened.
Right. Yes.
At this extent.
Right.
But knowing that this very individual decision that you guys made as a family, and how that's turned into something that is deeply motivational. I guess you could say. Would that be fair? Towards what it is that you're doing now, that's something that's admirable.
Oh, thank you very much.
Inspirational. I mean, you're going from one channel to 5 channels.
Right.
So,
yeah.
There's never really an easy way to segue this. But why don't we talk about that then?
Sure.
We're talking about how it is that you want to inspire people. You've got the 5 channels. If you don't mind me, let me see if we got this. There's the React channel.
Yes.
There's the Shorts channel.
Yes.
The Family channel. This podcast.
And
then
channel.
Obviously the main one.
The main one, yes. And I also have a live channel as well, so I guess that would count as one.
Yeah.
Get on the live channel. Well, all of them serve their different purposes, right? And a lot of them is about sharing. Now, the the React channel. Let's start with that. And our friend Joe over there, he's the one spearheading that channel. But it's more than just me watching trailers and going, woohoo, nice trailer. Whoa, I'm excited. Which is fun.
It's fun.
But for me, it's more about sharing. Okay, so when when things like those new Disney Plus series come out, it's an experience that I share with my family, but I know that there are a lot of people who follow me who are so excited to watch these things at the same time. So it'd be fun to share that experience with them as well. So it's about sharing these feelings and emotions we get when we watch all of these things, right? And I'm known for drawing these particular characters. So my inner thoughts when I'm watching these things, it's nice to share.
Yeah.
But also on this channel, and we haven't done this yet, but I would also like to share my thoughts and try to help people when it comes to their own art as well. So I'm not just going to be reacting to movies and art memes, which is going to be a lot of fun, but also I'm going to be critiquing as well. I'm going to be looking at people's art and and give my honest opinion and feedback to them, not in a brutal way, but in a helpful way. And sometimes people get that mixed up. They think when you're trying to help, they think you're saying their art is bad, right? Well, that's not true at all. But I want to show people how they could improve themselves. I'm a teacher at heart. I've taught at Centennial College for quite a few years now. I'm not sure if I'm going to be teaching moving forward or not. We will see. But it's my way of also helping give back, because I know a lot of people who watch my channel, a lot of very young. They want to do YouTube, or they want to work in comics, or they want to work in film. And any way that I can help them kind of steer their way towards that, I'm more than willing to do, for sure. So that's the React channel. It's more of a sharing and helping them come to an understanding of their own artwork, right? So there's a whole bunch of things that we're planning on doing with that channel. Right now, we're just trying to get started, get our feet wet with the channel, so that's why you just saw us just reacting to some trailers and stuff, having a bunch of fun, which is a lot of fun, but it will be more of that sharing at the end of the day.
Can I riff off something that
Sure.
you said there for a second?
Yeah.
Do you remember an early time, maybe, an early critique that really was something that you ended up taking to heart that led you towards that journey to, being a little bit more open to critique for critique's sake?
Open for critiques. Well, I'm trying to think of if there was an exact one.
Yeah.
One per se. Because, like, when you're working in, I remember when I was in college, I had this one teacher where whenever we handed in an assignment, we'd have to put it up on the wall. I think a lot of teachers do this these days, but we had to pin up our work on the wall.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then he would go by and he would just tear it up. Right? Tear it up.
In front of everyone else. In
front of everyone else.
Okay.
Everyone else. But
Yeah.
there was a reason why. Because he goes, to be honest, that's the industry.
Yeah.
You're going into a freelance industry. The thing is, the client usually has something in their head they want.
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking for something that's exactly what they have in their head.
Right.
And 99% of the time, you're not going to have what's in their head. So it's not that your work is bad, but it's not what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he wanted to kind of beat. I keep saying beat. It's a bad word, right? To implement into our brain that it's nothing personal. Whenever it comes to these critiques, it's nothing personal, right? He wasn't the only one. I had many teachers that were like that when it came to class critiques.
Uh-huh.
But it's more that we're trying to get us to a certain destination. And their critiques are more trying to help us get to that destination that they want to get. Now, before, if you're not used to that, you're just thinking, oh, they don't like my stuff. Or my art's no good, when that's not the case. It's more, you're not where this artwork needs to be. It's a cool piece of art, but it's not what we're looking for.
Right.
At the same time. I'll give you a little bit more recent version of that. I was doing... I was actually working in VFX already, and they came up to me and they said they needed some concepts for this particular movie. I won't say what it was, but they wanted me to do some concepts. They wanted me to do in a comic book style, right? So I got all excited because I haven't done that in a while. So I got all my drawing materials. I went to the boardroom. I started doing some drawings, And then we send it to them. They're like, "Oh, okay, these are cool and all, but can you send us a 3D model?" They sent us a 3D model of it, and then I was like, "Yeah."
From a Comic-Con,
You know,
okay.
for a comic style,
Yeah.
right? And I'll tell you what it was for afterwards. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. But then I was like, "Oh." So, but it wasn't that the art was bad. It's just not what they were looking for.
Right.
At the same time, so that's what was really implemented into me. Let me tell you this story here, and I've told this story many times. When I worked on Wonder Woman, a long time ago. You know, when you work on iconic characters, they have a certain look. And your artwork, if you're lucky enough to work for Marvel DC, and you know where I'm going, if you're working for Marvel DC, they're iconic characters, Superman, Batman, Wonder, they have a look to them, and you have to achieve that look. It's very rare that you're able to take artistic license and draw them differently than what they are, unless you're like a top-tier artist, okay? So a couple things I did in there they didn't like. Number one, I drew Batman with eyes. Because I saw Alex Ross did that. Alex Ross, a world-renowned comic book painter, if you will see the way he draws Batman, paints Batman, he draws them with pupils. He paints them with pupils. And I'm like, and I heard him talk about that in Wizard Magazine. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. So I drew him with eyes.
Okay.
Didn't like that. And then for some reason, they just could not, they did not like the way I drew Superman. See, I was very lucky and I dropped the ball on this. I know if I would have done well on this could have resulted in so many different opportunities for me. Because I know the editor of Justice League was looking at my stuff at the time, and I just dropped the ball. And that's one thing, realizing when you drop the ball, that was on me. I was young, I was stupid. But I had the chance to draw Wonder Woman versus the Justice League. It's a dream, right? So I was trying to draw Superman, and I just couldn't get his look down. They didn't like the way I drew the face. And they kept coming back to me and said, Jim, can you just fix up the face, maybe give him a square jaw and stuff. So I kept going back, kept trying to draw him better. Okay? And I thought we got it. Right? So I gave the final drawings, I shipped it out, all done. Waited for the book to come out. The book comes out. I take a look through this Wonder Woman book, and I realized they got another artist to redraw Superman's face. All of them. All of Superman's face they redrew. And they photoshopped Batman's eyes out. The Batman's eyes are white. Now, as an artist, that's devastating, man. I'm telling you. Because it's not the fact that... It's a couple of factors. First of all, you're like, why didn't they tell me they were going to do this? But also, it's like your own factors. Like, I just wasn't good enough at the end of the day. Just wasn't good enough to handle those characters. So I guess I wasn't prepared at the time, right? Now, they were very nice about it. No one yelled at me.
Yeah.
No one were like and it's not like they didn't give me a chance. They totally gave me a chance to fix it. I just didn't pull through at the same time. But all of these experiences, especially on the comic book side, it really prepared me as I got older. It prepared me for when I started getting to VFX, where you get critiqued on a daily basis. Like when you're working VFX, we have something called dailies. For those who don't know, if you're working on a project, you're working on a particular shot in a movie. It's either one time a day or 2 times a day. Depending on the company, they would come and look at your work and see what you did for that day or the day before. Now, some places, we go into this big theater and you input your work, and then we go in this big theater and they project it on screen, and then the visual effects supervisor there with a laser pointer, and we point out what you did wrong, right? Or it could be as simple as just a bunch of you going into a room, and then you do it that way, right? And I'll tell you, it's daily. It's daily bust. Daily, oh, why you do that again? Why you do that again? Oh, man! Oh, I had one supervisor. I'm not sure if I told this story. I have one supervisor, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because he was right. I'm not blaming him at all, because he was totally right. It was on Percy Jackson. We worked on Percy Jackson. And, he just was not happy with my work. And I don't blame him. Looking back at what I was doing, like, it took me twice as long to do things I said it would take only like a day to do. It would take me 4 or 5 days to do. Or he would get me to model a character, and I just couldn't get the likeness down of the character in 3D and all that. And I ended up not staying. They opted not to renew my contract afterwards. And it's just something you accept. And he was totally right. And he just won an Academy Award for 1917. So who am I going to say is wrong? Right? The guy was totally right at the end of the day. Hello, Academy Award winning director. Hello, remember me? I was the one who failed you. But if it wasn't for those experiences I had back when I was in college, back when I was working in comics, I don't know if I would have been able to take those critiques older, right? Because I realized it's not personal. It's never personal. Well, sometimes it is personal. Let's be honest. There's politics in every job you have, but they're trying to get to a certain goal. They're trying to achieve a certain look, and if you're not pulling your weight, per se, if you're not doing the work you were supposed to do, of course they have to say something. That's their job, or else they can't deliver what they need to deliver to the actual client itself. So, I understood that more as I got older.
Yeah.
Before, I always felt like an attack on my work, right? So when I started getting into YouTube, I was pretty much resilient to everything by that point. I didn't care anymore. You can say whatever you want.
Before we get into the YouTube thing and start touching on that, I just want to go back to like the Wonder Woman scenario, and also the VFX scenario for Percy Jackson. I mean, those are two times where, from the outside looking in, some people, depending on how they might be, they could feel like, oh man, it was that bad. It feels like the end of the world, right? Did it ever come to that point for you with either of those, or any other point, or any other thing that you might not have mentioned yet? Where it's just like, oh man, I did so bad that I should just, hang up my hat and go home. Because it feels like the lesson here, you're doing the YouTube thing now, you're your own boss when it comes to doing YouTube, pretty much, more or less. You're an example that it's not the end of the world.
Right, yes.
But at the time.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, no, it totally felt like that. Well, but that particular job on that person, it did. There were days that you felt, and again, it wasn't being mad at the supervisors. It was being mad at yourself for not being able to do the work because it's not like he did that to everybody, right? If he did that to everybody, then everyone's like, oh, this guy's just a thing. But when I see him praise people, and then you're the one he doesn't.
You're not getting it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I knew I wasn't getting it. That's the thing. I knew I wasn't getting it. Yeah. So, there were days where I was just sitting down like, oh man, I just can't get it. But also at the same time, I think that's one thing that what put me through was my family. Because I have to, right? It's like a no choice. I have to keep going for them. And I can understand why if someone didn't have a family, it's a lot harder sometimes, right? When you don't have to, you don't have to worry about other people in that sense, or people aren't relying on you to keep going. And to be honest, that's another reason why I got into VFX in the first place, was because I had my daughter. I had my daughter, and freelance is very up and down. I'm sure we'll talk more about that shortly. But I realized that I wasn't supporting my family the way I needed to, in that sense. It was like one great thing about my wife was, to be honest, there were years that she was the one, and that's how excited I am, because like, that's years, right? But she was the main breadwinner of the family. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Like she was the nurse. She was the one bringing in the secure pay, right? Like the income we can rely on. When mine was more like the supplemental. If there's time, oh great, I have a job, hooray!
You got a good season.
Yeah. And I'm very grateful to her that she put up with that for as long as she did. At the same time, but that was because we talked. I'm like, you know what? I need something stable. Because that's one thing about the freelance life; it's very up and down, and we'll talk about that shortly. But that's why I wanted to go into VFX in the first place, because I wanted something that was more stable for the family. So when you have people that rely on you, who need you to do these things, it's a different type of motivation. And again, bringing back to what I'm doing now, that's a great motivation for me. At the same time, like what kind of example would I be to them if I'm just in my room for the next 2 years, just crying and thinking, you know what I mean? What's going to stop them from doing the same, right? And everyone grieves differently. Everybody grieves differently. But at the same time, I know I'm the one that they look up to, and I'm the one that they're looking for support in that manner. And, when talking to various counselors and stuff, they're like, you know what, it's okay. It's fine. And I'm not saying that you're a bad person for wanting to stay in your room and cry. Of course, I understand that. But for me personally, I feel like I have to get out here and I have to do this. Okay, not just for me, but for them as well, right? And again, not saying that someone who needs to do that, even if they are a parent, not saying that's wrong at all. It's nothing wrong with that at all. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying for me personally, it feels like something I have to do at the same time. So it's much different when you have people who rely on you for these type of things. That's what I was getting at. So.
We were talking about freelance,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the ups and downs. Sometimes
Yes.
you have some good months, sometimes you don't have good months. Sometimes those good months that you don't have
Mm-hmm.
end up feeling like they're going to last forever.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're doing YouTube, you're doing this on your own too,
Yes.
right? Does it feel like there's more similarities to that freelance up and down, doing your own thing on this platform than it did back then? Or?
I'll say yes or no.
Okay.
The thing is, for anyone who wants to go into freelance illustration,
Mm-hmm.
You really have to be a businessman. Like, it's unfortunate that as creatives, if you want to work independently, that you can't just focus on the art and that's it. It's unfortunate. Now, you could always partner with somebody. It's always dangerous to partner because you never know sometimes, and you hear those horror stories. But if you don't partner with somebody, half your job is finding the work. Half your job is invoicing. Half your job is negotiating contracts, figuring out how much money to charge, and then you get to work afterwards. So it's like half your week is actually just trying to find work, and then maybe even less than half the week is actually doing the work at the end of the day. So that's what was the hard part about working in comics, is that especially if you're not an established artist in terms of someone that company fully trusts, where you're always looking for work. That's the thing. You're always looking for a job. And then, and I mentioned this many times, but it seems, and like you mentioned, it seems like 1 month there's too much work. Like all the companies call at once, right? And you're like, where were you like 3 months ago when I had no work? Couldn't you guys spread out a little bit? Couldn't you spread out? And then that was one problem that I had. I was faced in a situation where I had three jobs come in at once, and I didn't want to say no to any of them because I didn't know when they would come again. Right, I was working on, and I laugh at this with Erico, one of my friends. Yeah. He owns Udon Entertainment, does all Street Fighter books and stuff like that. But he got me to do Transformers G.I. Joe. He wanted me to do that. So I was working on that. I was working on City of Heroes for Top Cow. So let me put this in a timeline, okay? Yeah. And I'll tell you how I did it and how I should have done it. How I should have done it. Okay. So this is how I did it. So I had no work for months, okay? Yeah. Then Top Cow comes to me, and they offer me City of Heroes. We'll give you 3 issues of City of Heroes. We'll give you this much amount of pay. Wasn't a lot. It was pretty much half what I was making at DC, right? So it wasn't a lot at all. I asked for a little bit of raise. They gave me like a $10 raise. Right? And I was like, okay, I'll take it. So, okay, I'll work on that. And then. Eric, bless his heart, comes to me and he said, "Hey James, we need some fill-in books. We'd love for you to fill in on Transformers G.I. Joe. Help my buddy Joe Ning. Joe Ning, amazing artist."
Was this your first Transformers book, by the way?
No. Okay. This was way later. It was way after Dreamwave, right? This was 2004, I think, late 2004.
Okay.
2004, 2005, and then I'm like, I didn't want to say no. It's like, okay, I'll you know what? Half the day. I'll work on City of Heroes. The other half, I'll do a page of Transformers G.I. Joe. Everybody's happy.
So these are both like, what would be the page count after?
22 pages each.
So you're working on 44 pages.
Yes. Okay. And then my good friend Edwin, he was I trained him to be a background artist at Dreamwave. He was working at a company called Spin Master Toys. Uh-huh. And they were developing a project there. Now, I'm not sure if I can talk about it now, but it's been like 20 years. But it was very G.I. Joe-ish, let me just say that. But they were developing their own line of characters.
Okay.
And he told me, hey, James, they want you, they want to do this toy insert comic, right? And I suggested that you draw it, and I'll color it. And I'm like, okay, all right, so this is what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to spend 5 hours on a page, take a little half an hour break, work another 5 hours on another page, half an hour break, another 5 hours on the page, then go to bed.
Sounds
all good.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah.
And I totally messed up all 3 projects. All 3 projects I messed up. City of Heroes, I quit. I quit after the first issue because I had to choose, right?
Yeah.
And then I did. I finished the other two projects. Eric was not happy with my work. God bless his soul. Eric's great. He's still a good friend of mine today. I always apologize to him profusely for that time. But he would call me up like, James, man, I know you got family responsibilities, but you got work responsibilities. He left me a message like, sorry, Eric, I'm sorry, man. You're so good to me. Sorry, Eric. And not my best work. Not my best work. So to the point where I'm not going to tell people what it is. And for that Spin Master one, let's just say that Edwin saved me in that because his colors were so good on that thing. It totally saved my artwork on that particular book itself there. So that's when I decided to go into film after that. Now, what I should have done, look at that. This is years of experience. I should have said no to the other projects. And as hard as I was working on those three, I should have worked on one book as hard. Because you imagine what a hero I would have been if I would have gotten like 2 issues of City Heroes out that month. Or even all 3 out in like a month and a half. I would have looked like a superstar. Even though I was making less money. Makes sense. Right? Yeah. And then I could say, oh, look how fast this guy is, right? Either they would pay me more or somebody else would notice, right? Yeah. Use it because it was a team book. It was a total audition for doing like a team book at Marvel or DC if I would have done it properly. And it's published, right? If I would have done a good job on it.
Now, just as a sidebar, very quick summary. What makes a team book so much harder than, like, let's say, drawing a Batman book?
Well,
X-Men versus Batman or something.
It's all about quantity. Because, team book, you're talking multiple characters on a panel
that you got
at a time.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, right? When it's Batman and stuff, it's a lot easier a single character book because for the most part, it's usually just the one character that you got to focus on, right? So it's just Batman. Yeah. Of course, you got his enemies and all that, but for the most part, it's just Batman you're drawing. Yep. Team book. Imagine drawing the Avengers book. There's like 7 characters. You got to draw multiple ones in every panel. It takes more time. It takes much more time. So that's what makes it harder. Not everyone can draw a team book. Just like not anyone can draw a Transformers book because of the amount of detail you got to put into a Transformers book at the end of the day. So it's little things you pick up along the way because, word gets around too. Mm-hmm. Like everyone knows each other. And that's one thing I tell my students also when in visual effects industry, word gets around. It's a smaller industry than you think. Everybody knows each other. So if you mess up in one place, they're going to tell their friend Joe Schmo who works at a different company, hey, they'll ask him, hey, what was it like working with this guy? And like, this guy always blows his deadlines. This guy can't model properly. That's why I couldn't get another job. No, I'm just joking. I got plenty of jobs after. Just joking. But it's stuff you learn. Yeah. And it's stuff that as you get older, you mature, that you learn. And it's like, and that's kind of what I want to share with people. Like the mistakes I made, it's something I could tell someone, hey, like, look, this is what happened to me. Make sure it doesn't happen to you. Now, everyone's going to make their own mistakes. But if I could kind of shorten that gap for people, right? That's why I always say, like, books are great. When you read autobiographies about someone's career, is like because you could experience their 20, 30 years of mistakes all in one book, right? So that it will help you not make the same type of mistakes going forward. You're going to make mistakes. Everyone does, right? You're going to blow deadlines. Everybody does, right? You're going to do things that aren't right. Yeah. But if my experience can help lessen that for other people, then why not share that? At the end of the day.
I know that you say that during the time that you're teaching, you're very candid about the mistakes that you made, so that way your students can learn off of that.
Right.
The business side I thought was interesting.
Yes.
In any school that you know of, or even when you were in school, did they give you any courses or any education on the business side of the stuff that you'd have to learn if you were freelance?
Oh no. Well, I'm not sure. It depends on the school. Okay, so the schools I've been a part of, no, we didn't really talk about that. Yeah. In terms of how to negotiate, there were some teachers who would possibly give like a little bit of information, maybe, or how they would do their work, but not actually how to negotiate a contract or anything, or how much to charge. Nobody ever tells you that. Right. I wish they do. Now, they used to have this almanac. I'm not sure if they have it now, where they used to have this book where it would actually say the prices that people should be charging for a certain type of service. I bought that book a long time ago. It was like 20 years ago, 30 years, before I met my wife.
Okay.
Before I met my wife, there was. You know why I say that? Because she came up to me because she knew I could draw, and she asked me if I could do a flyer for her dad. Her dad had a mechanic shop, so I didn't know how much to charge. So that's when I bought the book. Okay, that's one of the ways I met my wife back in the day. Okay. But no one tells you how much to make. That's why. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it. What the hell? What the hey? What the hey? What the hey? That's why one of my favorite classes that I do at the course I was teaching. I'm not sure if I'm going to be teaching or not. I'll take some time and actually answer any questions they have about money that they have.
Yeah.
I tell them exactly how much I made and how much to expect. I tell them how to negotiate or how I negotiated and the things I learned.
Yeah.
Because it's the stuff people don't really tell you as you get older. Mainly because sometimes the teachers are in that field. And they don't want to, rock the boat, as they say.
Right.
And those times, or if some people are being selfish, they want to make sure that they're the one getting the money and not those younger ones. Right? Money's always a taboo thing. Whenever it's especially for artists, when you're working at a company and you have artists, it was very rare that we actually said, "Hey, how much you make?" Like nobody ever did that. And then there were times that I wish I did, because there was one time. Okay, I'll tell this story. What the heck? I'm not working in the industry anymore. What the heck? Okay, exclusive here. There was one time. I won't mention where or when or who. Okay, but one time I found out my contemporary. I saw how much my contemporary was making. No idea what he was making before, right? I saw what he was making, and he was literally making $20,000 more than me, right? Yeah. And I was like, huh? And the reason that got to me was because when I tried to negotiate my contract earlier, I asked for an extra $5,000, right?
Okay.
And they wouldn't give it to me. But then I saw my contemporary, or someone I thought was working the same as me, was getting so much more than I was. So then I kind of got upset a little bit. And then, because I had someone reach out to me, they wanted to hire me away from this particular company. Mm-hmm. And they offered me a fair sum. For it, very comparable to what my friend received, and I was going to take it, right? But then somehow my boss heard about it. They heard about it, and then they come up to me and they're like, "Look, we heard a little thing that you might want to leave, and you know what? Tell you what, we'll match what they're offering. We'll match what they're offering, and and maybe I'm getting the story a little bit mixed up here." But they'll match. Oh no, I'm not. But they said they'll match, right?
Yep.
And originally I was thinking about just staying because I'm used to it. Okay. Something about being used to the system, right? So I was thinking about staying, and then the other company came back and upped their offer.
Okay.
On me.
Yeah.
And then I brought back to when I asked before, the money before.
Yeah. And
they wouldn't give it to me, and then I was like, oh. Now again, looking back at it also now, my buddy. He's way more talented than me, and this is not me being like humble or anything. He was, right? I'm confident in my skills to say no. He deserved that much more, in my opinion. But we were treated the same. You know what I mean? We were treated the same. So that's why I tell my students there is value in knowing how much your contemporary has, right? For both of you to know, so that you make sure that nobody's getting. Nobody's getting, for the lack of a better term, lowball. Pushed over, right? And sometimes companies, they aren't willing to give you a raise until they know they're going to lose you, right? So maybe I shouldn't be telling you guys this. You're going to be finding a job tomorrow. You're going to find a job tomorrow, right?
I'll just start doing macrofacial expressions at this point whenever you cut something.
What? Yeah. But you know me, right? If you got a better opportunity, I'm going to tell you get out of here. Like go get it. Can I have that deal? But a lot of times these companies, they don't. And at the end of the day, it's a bottom line thing. As a business owner myself, I understand it.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they could have a person for a certain amount of money, and they're not complaining, they seem happy. Like I do believe in rewarding people for their work. But if the person doesn't say anything, then why do they feel obliged to give them more if they don't say anything? Right. But I always tell people, sometimes in this industry, or in that particular industry, I don't know if this applies to every other industry, but the only time that they'll really value you is when you're willing to leave. Sometimes. So if you want a better deal, it's better to make sure that they know you have other options, so they're more willing to give you a better deal than what you have. And that's happened to me a few times, actually. So like, I wasn't going to get that raise unless they knew I was leaving. Right. So when I tell people that, especially those people getting to the VFX landscape, if you want a better pay, you got to prove your number one, you got to prove you're very valuable to that particular company. You got to be the go-to guy or girl, right? Or person, right? You got to be the go-to person. And you could tell who that go-to person is all the time. You could tell. They're literally the go-to person. They go to that person, right? And you know that person deserves the most money because they're the go-to person. That's the person who deserves the more. But you got to get to that point, and then you could write your check. Because if they won't pay you, somebody else will. Somebody else will. So that art of negotiation, nobody teaches you. Or I haven't heard it. Maybe there are schools that do that, and I hope they are. I hope they do share that, because that's, especially for the artists, like most artists are introverts, right? Most artists don't like, speaking out or rocking the boat in that sort of sense. We just want to go and draw at the end of the day. Even me, at the end of the day, I just want to go and be creative and have fun and draw. At the end of the day, you don't want to think about money. You just hope it comes.
Then I guess, right? Like, there's all these things out there, like, not spoken about so much now, but like things like Fiverr that make you feel like, oh, you got to start on Fiverr.
Right.
Charge $5, that sort of thing.
Well, that's why a lot of graphic design people hate Fiverr, because they're guys who think, and then they'll go to these actual graphic designers and think, hey, I could get this logo on Fiverr, right? And then the graphic designer's like, well, then go for it. Yeah. Knock yourself out. Pay $5. You'll get $5 of a $5 worth of a logo. That's what you're gonna get. But you gotta, and I always say this too. Whenever I sell original art, at the end of the day, your artwork is only worth as much as somebody's willing to pay for it. Okay, whether that be an original piece of art or even the artwork you do for a particular company, it's only worth what somebody is willing to say yes for. So it's up to you to build up your art to the point where people are willing to pay for it. It's just like people who come up to me who want to draw comic books. And they say, I want this comic, how do I get into comics? I got to be comics. Well, I always tell them, first of all, you got to be honest with yourself, okay? Look at the books on the shelf right now. Look at the people Marvel and DC hire. Put your artwork up to theirs. And then really be honest with yourself. Will someone pick your art over theirs? Because the thing about the comic book industry, you're not just competing with newbies. You're not just competing with young kids trying to get into comics. You're competing with professionals who want to stay in comics, right?
Like, you're not trying to be the best in your own high school.
Exactly, right, yeah. It's not a tier. Like, there are people, like veteran comic book artists, who are still looking for work today. And they're competing for the same job that you are at the same day. So you have to make sure that your artwork is commercial enough, or if for Marvel or DC or any of these comic book companies, to step back and say, hey, this person is going to make us money. This person is going to sell this book, right? That's what your art has to say. And you have to be really honest with yourself that their art looks as good, if not better, than the person on the shelf right now. If it's not there, then how do you get it there? That's what you got to ask yourself. How can you take your art from that to better than what you see on the shelf? Okay.
So would you say that that's like a higher bar than people are expecting, or is high not the right word? It's adjusting the bar more pragmatically, more realistically.
Yeah. I think it's more real, because everyone loves their own art, I guess, or everyone thinks their art is good. Well, I won't say everyone. Some people don't think their art is good. But for the most part, I think people do have a higher value of their art than what's really there. Like, even myself, like, I know there's always things I need to learn. Even after a 20, 30-year career in art, I know there's a lot of stuff I need to learn. A lot of stuff I need to get better at. And that's for everybody, right? And it's just being humble enough to take a step back. It's like, okay, how can I get better? Instead of going, this editor doesn't know what he's talking about, right? Or these people don't know what they're talking about. Oh, if my book was on the shelf. Well, then put your money where your mouth is. Prove it. And how can you prove it? try to build a social media following with your art. That's what I would say to that person who refuses to learn. The person who refuses to learn, the person who refuses to take what an editor says to heart, okay, fine. If you fully believe that your art is enough to make people buy, then prove it. Put your stuff online. Try to sell prints online, right? Try to sell a comic book online. And if a lot of people buy it, or a lot of people love your art, then maybe you do have a shot. Maybe the editors were wrong at the end of the day. But that's the only way to prove it these days, you know?
No,
right?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're talking about that, and I guess that segues into the next thing that we'll talk about here. That method of being able to prove your worth is not something that was available, say, when, you know, like you and I graduated from college.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
YouTube itself, I mean, at the time, YouTube didn't exist.
Right.
So it's not like as if you left college and said, I wanted to be a YouTuber. Yet
Right.
here you are. Was there some sort of like a transferable skill set there that you could say happened, or was it like a whole new game yet again?
It was definitely a new game, for sure. The way I got into YouTube was I was working at Ubisoft, and let's just say something happened at home, and I need to take some time off. And I'm like, okay, what can I do in the meantime? And then I started looking at YouTube videos, and the first one I saw was a guy named Mark Crilly. I call him the godfather of YouTube art, because he was like the first one to really hit back then. And then he would have these videos where he would draw an eye, get millions of views, just him drawing an eye. And I'm like, I look at him, I can draw an eye.
Yeah,
I can draw an eye. I can do these things. So it was an outlet that definitely wasn't there before.
What year was this?
This was a 2012.
Okay. When
I first started knowing and stuff. Now, like I was thinking about doing something online before then, right? I was like, and we'll go way back, even before my wife and I got married.
Yeah.
Someone showed me some stuff online about somebody was trying to do this online comic. And I was like, can you even make money off this type of thing back then? There was even no YouTube at that time.
Are we talking about like the motion comic type of thing?
Not
even.
Not even back then. This guy was just doing these not motion comics, but they were comics online. And my friend was saying, "Hey, maybe we could do something. You could do something like this." You know? And then I was thinking about it at that time. Like, oh, that'd be interesting, this online world. But you can never make money off that, right? And you couldn't back then. Back then, it was very, very tough. And YouTube itself didn't come around until 2006, right? So when I was in comics, the only way online to get noticed is maybe like message boards.
Yeah.
Back then, right? The old Millar World message board or Warren Ellis's message board. Warren Ellis got mad at me on his message board before. Did I tell that? Sorry. And I don't want to get too much into it, but on this particular message board, people are real. It's like Reddit, where people don't like when you self-promote yourself.
Yep.
So
you're right. It was like the precursor to Reddit.
Yes, exactly.
Because Reddit wasn't around at that time.
It wasn't, yeah. And so people were posting their art, right? So I named myself DW1, Dreamwave 1 or something like that.
Oh, gosh!
And then I put up a page from Dreamwave, like, oh, look at this amazing piece of art from Dreamwave. And let's just say that I think it was Warren himself who got mad at me and wrote down DW1. Are you serious? Get out of here! He's like that, and that was a clean way of me saying that.
Wow.
Yeah, like I deleted it right away. I'm like, oh, didn't know later on we would work together.
Before moderators would just delete it and be done.
Yeah. No, he came on. I'm like, he was mad. He was mad. I was like. But that was our online experience back then, right?
Yeah.
Now back then it worked. Like for example, I remember on the Millar World boards. Today, Nicola Scott, she's been working for DC forever, working on Wonder Woman. Like she's one of the most prolific Wonder Woman artists out there. But I remember when she got her start in Millar World boards, she was always there. Like she was doing some stuff for IDW, but like she said, her dream was to work on Wonder Woman and all that stuff, and just to see her progression, getting there. And fun fact for you guys, the last two comics, when I was working full time in comics, that officially did was Birds of Prey 98, 99, and then she did issue 100 after me, right? So Nicola's followed me. Not that that's any relevance, but that was cool. But
piece of trick.
But that was a way for people to get noticed back then, right? It was like these boards. And trying to cold email people, right? That's the way we would try to get it
Well, like you were saying, there's no
Yeah.
Instagram, there's no
Right.
there's no like method of sharing things that will say, oh, likes and whatever. So I
Right.
imagine that the metric there would be in the forums to be like, how many people are responding and saying that this is awesome?
Right,
How
right.
many views is this thread getting, sort of thing?
Exactly. Well,
Prototype, the precursor.
it was a total different world back then,
Yeah.
right? Like, there was no, when you were at cons selling prints, there was none of that back then. If we could do that back then, like, I'll tell you, even selling prints at conventions,
Yeah.
if we could have done that back then, or if people thought about doing that back then, I probably would have stayed in comics. Because, you know, you could make a lot of money just selling prints.
Uh-huh.
It would have been totally a great, and you get to travel around,
Yeah.
and just sell prints at cons. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I would totally done that. I could have done that. I would have stayed in comics if that was the case, right? But that wasn't really around back then. If you wanted to check out, we put up that classic interview with John Tyler Christopher. We were talking about he was one of the first ones to actually do that back in the day.
Uh-huh.
But there was nothing like that, and it wasn't until like 2012 that I started to notice this YouTube thing. And I had no idea how to make money off it. Yeah. I had no idea. And so I'm like, maybe you could get a sponsor, or maybe this could turn into like a TV show or something. That's what you would think to yourself back then. So I'm like, okay, why don't I give it a shot? Uh-huh. And I've told this story many times, but I'll just quickly blast through this. I wanted to be more of a movie reviewer back in the day. So my heroes were guys like my friends Schmoes No, or Jeremy Johns, or Chris Stuckman. They were. I wanted to be a reviewer mainly because I wanted to watch movies early. I wanted to go into movie premieres. Now, I guess I was like I would say I'm more of a movie buff now than I was back then. I wasn't really a movie buff.
Yeah,
I just like movies, right? I just kind of liked them, right? But you wouldn't watch me go, oh. I've seen all 10 of those Academy Award nominees. I haven't even heard of those movies before.
Yeah.
Who are these people? Right? But I just wanted to have some fun, right? So, and I wanted to be invited to these press screenings that made me do that, right? I said, okay, I'm going to be the movie reviewer, right? So, but to make myself different, I'm going to draw an image while I talk about the movie. So that's where I came from. So I couldn't see the movies early, so I said, okay, I'll do previews of movies coming up. So my first one, again, Iron Man is such a big... Iron Man has been such an important character to this channel, to the Box Office Artist channel. Most of my most viral videos came from Iron Man. My very first video was for Iron Man 3. And I put that video up, and it was bad. It was bad. You can see me. I'm just trying to make jokes. You know, pretty much jokes I've heard from other people. You know, and I just try to say them. You know, it was pretty bad. Now, part of me does think what would happen if I would have just continued doing that. I think it would have caught on. I really believe if I was actually consistent, did it every week, that it would have caught on eventually. Like if I would have stuck with it for like 2 years,
well,
I have a feeling it could have come. I think I did about 6.
Okay.
And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work, especially for someone who didn't really film.
Yeah.
So before, like I dabbled in some filming stuff before. I had some friends help me out, but the first 6, I was planning on doing one a week. So my plan was I would do one, and then hopefully I get to the point where I could sell the artwork, right? So that would kind of sustain me.
Okay.
Sell the artwork. And then if I make any other money, fantastic, right? So I did about 6 of them, and then kind of life got in the way. It took a little bit longer to do them. And again, being your own boss, that's the thing. You can take breaks when you want. That's one thing. And then in September of that year, a buddy of mine invited me back to work. He was working on a movie. He wanted me to be a part of the team, and then I went back to work for a little bit. And again, like I mentioned before, people love the art. They hated my commentary. They hated. Now, I know it would have got better if I kept doing it. And to this day, I wonder, what if I did continue just trying to do these movie reviews? Maybe I'll go back to that channel format one of these days. We'll see. You never know. But they like the artwork, and that's how it all started from there. And it wasn't until 2015 when my friend Muj Lau. She's currently the art director at Pixamundo. She's doing very well for herself. She encouraged me to keep posting onto my YouTube channel, and then there was this Facebook challenge where you would you put up 3 pieces of art. You put 3 pieces of art, and then you would tag people, and then they would have to put the 3 pieces of art for 5 days straight. Okay. So it was a challenge. So she tagged me. So I'm like, okay, I'll put up 2 pieces of art. How about for the third one? I'll do a video. I'll do a video. Why do I do that? I haven't posted my YouTube channel in a long time. why don't I do that? So that's what I did. And then I started to get the itch again. So I would start waking up early. I would start waking up at 3 in the morning. And I guess that's where, because even today, I wake up at 3 in the morning because it's just kind of built into me now.
Yeah.
But I wake up at 3 in the morning. I would try to do a drawing before work, or try to do a video or a piece of a video before work, and then put it up and not think anything of it, you know. And I got to meet some bigger YouTubers like my friend Jazza. Jazza was he's a big part of the story because he really mentored me through those early years. I met Jazza. I'm not sure if I told, again, one of those stories I've told already, but I met Jazza because he was doing very well. I think he was the number 2 art YouTuber at the time.
So Mark Crilly.
Mark Crilly was number 1. Jazza was number 2. And he would have these monthly contests.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, I want this guy to notice me. I'll enter the contest. Now, I'm a professional artist, people. Yeah. I'm a comic book artist. A professional comic book artist. I shouldn't be entering these amateur contests. Yeah. But I did, just because I wanted to get to know Jazza. And he caught a liking to a couple of my pieces. Yeah. And then we just started talking. And when the decision came for me to go into YouTube full time, Jazza was right there to help me.
And for now, I'll be leaving you in the very capable hands of James Raiz. Take it away, James.
Hi, I'm James Raiz. I'm known on the internet as the Box Office Artist.
He said, if this is what you want to do, I'll tell you, I'll give you some tips on how to earn a living while you're doing it, and he was great. We sat down, we had conversations about how to do it going forward. Yeah.
So was Jazza your first example of, here's somebody that's doing this full time?
Oh, absolutely.
And was able to do that. Jazza
Absolutely.
Was the first. Yeah.
Absolutely. So of course Mark Crilly was the first one, right?
Sure.
Mark Crilly was the first one, and then I saw this video because I was also following this fellow artist, Evan Burse. Who ended up being a part of the Art Alliance with me and Zach and Flo.
Yeah.
But Evan was doing these things on YouTube. He was doing some great stuff. He was just sketching Marvel characters. He was working for Marvel Animation for a while. He doesn't anymore. But I loved his stuff. And then I saw this interview or this chat he had with a few other artists. Will Terry. For those who know Will Terry, he's on Jake Parker's podcast. He's a regular on his podcast. Also, what's her name? I forgot her name. Another girl. I forgot her name. But she was on there as well. And Jazza. And that was the first time I saw Jazza. And so I started to follow all 3 of them, all of these guys. And Jazza was the one who was, I think, the most consistent out of all of those guys. Even after Evan, because Evan was very consistent, but then Jazza kind of just overtook. But Jazza was the one who fully was full-time YouTube at the time. And yes, yeah, absolutely. He was a total inspiration for me to do that. Like, he wasn't afraid to tell me when I was doing things wrong too, right? He would, like, there was a time where I was trying to do, I started doing these vlogs. I was very inspired by Casey Neistat at the time. So I was trying to as a lot of people were, I started doing these daily vlogs. And then Jazza calls me up. He's like, dude, what are you doing, man? It's like, James, come on. Look at your views, man. You went from 2,000 views to like 200 views of a video. Reality, like, come on. Like, I know you like this, but if you want to vlog, do it on a separate channel. Don't do it on your main channel, right? He was very very helpful. I owe a lot of my career to Jazza and everything he's done for me, and I'll forever be grateful to Jazza for everything he's done for me. But to be honest, also the real catalyst for everything was my wife at the end of the day, because I really like the YouTube, and I was 38 at the time. I think I was like 37, 38, and I knew 40 was around the corner, and this was 2015, late 2015, early 2016, and I started teaching. I got my job at Centennial College, teaching in visual effects there with Muj. We were co-teachers. But I liked the teaching. It was fun. And I said, okay, this is a way to kind of support myself. And I thought for years, like at that point, it's been like 15 years, I've been doing art on my own, art for somebody else. Yeah. Whether that be for Marvel, DC, for film. I never did art for myself. Okay? Maybe that little cup of coffee with YouTube a few years back, but never really did it for me. Yeah. And that's one thing I always wanted to do art for me, not for anybody else. I wanted to do art that made me happy. So I sat down with my wife and I said, look, I'd like to give it a try. Now, let's say this. This was the first time ever. Remember I told you my wife was kind of supporting the family for the first year?
Yeah.
This was the first year ever I made more money than my wife.
From YouTube?
No, not from YouTube.
No?
Not from YouTube.
Oh, this was when you were still employed. Yeah.
I was still fully employed. First time ever I was making more money than my wife.
Okay.
And I go to my wife and say, "Hon, I want to quit. Because I want to try it." I said, if it doesn't work out, I could always go back.
Yeah.
She had every right to say no. Mm-hmm. She had every right to say, why don't we wait till you build up a little bit more of an audience? And then we could quit. Like you work on the weekend. That'd be totally reasonable. Yep. At the same time, looking back, maybe I should have done that. Right? Maybe I should have done that. I could have totally still worked on the weekends, in the morning, saved up more money, saved more morning money, and then go full time. Because I didn't have much of an audience at all.
Yeah.
At that time, I had like 1,000 subscribers or so. Not even 5,000 subscribers.
So this is a very small.
Yeah, very, very small.
Small audience.
Did I have 5,000? No, I might have had 5,000 subscribers at the time.
Okay.
5,000.
Still small.
Still small.
Yeah.
Comparatively. And I'm like, you know what? No, still support it. I'm going to teach a lot. Mm-hmm. And I picked up more classes at Max the Mutt. So I was teaching still a good 15 to 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like half the time, right? So I still have money coming in. Let me try it. And again, she had every right to say no. But she said, if this is what I wanted to do, that I should give it a try and do it.
That's...
Yeah,
wow.
right? So, and I know a lot of people would have said no. And a lot of people would have said yes, too. Who am I to say somebody else would have said, wouldn't have said yes? But she said yes.
It's like a pivoting, sliding
yeah.
doors moment. Where it's just like, you could
right.
or could, like, make or break.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And then, for motivation, if you look back at those live streams, and then that's how you and I reconnected, was those live streams.
It was.
Back
it
then.
It was, 100%.
But if you see there, and it was behind you, that wall there, and I had this bookshelf here, and I had a piece of paper on the side of the wall, and it had 3 names on there. It had Boss Logic on there. It had Jazza. It had my good friend John Campia. Those are the 3 names on there. And I showed John that too when I met him in the person for the first time. I showed him that picture, and it shocked him, right? There, John Campia, because he was a huge inspiration for me. And $5,000. $5,000. That $5,000 represent the amount of money I was losing every month for doing this. So to me, it was like a motivational factor for me. If I'm not doing the work, look, that's how much money I'm losing every month by quitting my job.
If you don't mind me asking,
sure.
$5,000 in terms of how much you would have been getting paid if you were still at the other job?
No.
Or $5,000 is how much you had to basically take out of your savings?
$5,000, let's just say I was, I won't say exactly how much I was making, right?
Of course.
But that's how much I was losing every month. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I would have been paid an extra $5,000, right? On top, right? That's how much I was losing doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
What I was doing.
That's a risky game.
Very risky.
Yeah.
Very risky. So I didn't expect to stay that long out. I didn't expect to stay that long out. And then, of course, the Star Wars, we talked about this before, the Star Wars and all that. And it came to the point where I wanted to go back. Yeah. And I think I mentioned this to you. I wanted to go back. I already been to the Star Wars show, and I was good. And I was talking to my friend Muja, who was in a high position there. She says, okay, come on back. Let's come back. And for some reason, it just didn't work out. And I couldn't go back anymore. And then I tried to apply to other visual effects jobs. And I couldn't get a job. And mainly because I left as a senior artist. So meaning I had a very high pay, as you could tell by the amount of money I lost. And for a lot of these companies, I wasn't good enough for them to justify that much money when they could get 2 juniors for the same amount that I would have been paid.
But maybe some additional detail here. Why is it that after that year would you now be considered not good enough?
Well, also because of for every in the visual effects industry, the technology changes every year. Mm-hmm. The way things are done changes.
So you're every year.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right. So let me give you an example of this. I was a matte painter. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know what matte painting is, I was explaining like filling in the green screen. Yeah. Filling in the green screen. Yeah. When I first started, 2013, 2014, it was all Photoshop. Everything I wanted to do was Photoshop. We get all these photos that we took, the photos that were giving to us by the director. I would take them, place them in certain places, add all my effects and all that stuff so it looks real. And that's it. That's all I did. And I handed it off to the compositor.
Yeah.
And then when I started working at Pixamundo, they said, no, that's not enough. You got to start putting it into this. We need some 3D in there. So you need some wire work. You have to put it in this compositing software. It's called Nuke, I believe, which is still the industry standard. You got to learn a little bit of Nuke to project it so we could throw cameras through. You got to make your own camera or take the camera that we made for you, put it through. So it started to get a lot more technical. Yeah. My job. To today, if I wanted to go back today, I have to go back to school. There's no way I would be able to get a job today. So I would have to take the course I teach. If I want to go work in the industry, I got to take the course I teach right now. So, but that's how it is. It changes so much every year to the point where they hardly use Photoshop these days. Now it's pretty much all 3D software. If they use Photoshop, it's just to like fix some textures to put on the 3D, but it's mostly 3D now. When I went to Lucasfilm for the Star Wars show, I was talking to people who technically had the same job I did, but did it completely differently than I did. I was talking to them. They said, no, we don't do it that way anymore. At Lucasfilm, we use this software and this software instead. Right. And then now I've talked to my friends. They're using that software now where they're working now. So it changes all the time. So I was in a position where I couldn't get a job even if I wanted to. So I had no choice but to continue doing what I was doing. Right. I had no choice but continuing on in this YouTube cycle, right?
Well, see, that's interesting too then, I guess, because it's like, you left the VFX industry, things changed so fast. But could you say that comparably in the YouTube space, there's just as much change that you need to keep up with?
Absolutely. And YouTube changes every year too. People watch different things. Yeah. The more people get famous for certain things, it's what people expect out of other YouTubers in that sense. That's why it's very rare. And you can even see this with the YouTubers that you follow. It's like music. It's very rare you see a musician be completely popular, very popular for 10 years. Most of the time it's maybe 2-3 years. And then they become, I won't say irrelevant, but they're not as popular as they once were. Right? So you'll see that. There's very few artists who are able to have, there's very few Madonnas out there that can have like a 30, 40 year career and it still works, right? Same with YouTube. I think about the YouTubers that I used to watch back in 2013. Some of them, you don't even see them anymore. They're gone, right? A lot of the art YouTubers have come and gone throughout the way. So to bank everything on YouTube, it's very risky. To do what we're doing right now, it's actually, to be honest, it's very risky because the audience is different. People look for different things, right? So, and you can even see that with the content I'm doing. The style of editing has changed. Back in the day, I could just draw something, time-lapse it, so shrink the footage down to like 5 minutes, throw some music on it, call it a day. And it would do reasonably okay. Yeah. But today it's more than that. Today it's all about retention. Today it's about getting people to watch the video all the way through. Today it's more than just for them to try to click around and see what the final artwork looks like at the same time. So it's very, very different than what it once was.
Would you say for yourself then, so far, that weighing the excitement versus the apprehension of that need to adapt, how does that scale look for you?
Well, it's fun. Yeah. Let me just say this right now, and I was mentioning to these guys, this is the most fun I've had in YouTube for a long time. And part of it is the challenge. Like, can I do that? Can I get to the level of these art YouTubers today? Like, one of my favorites is Gawk's art. I'm sure a lot of people watching Gawk's art, and I always use the reference to you guys. Look at the way this kid edits. It's amazing the way he edits. All those cool shots going around. It feels like a music video sometimes, right? And some people like it, some people don't, right, at the same time. So that's another reason for these different channels, too, that I'm doing, because I want to, with my main channel, I want to try to be as entertaining as possible. Make art entertainment. Make art put a smile on your face, even if you're not an artist at the end of the day. That's what I want to do with this channel. Yeah. Okay? Not so much to teach on this channel. It's more to entertain you and to inspire you with some cool art at the end of the day. But I do want to inspire you as well. And that's what these other channels for. That's what this podcast channel is for. You know, that's what the React channel is for. You know, I mean, even the live channel. If you want to learn to draw, those are more of the channels that you should be following, because that's more where I give my actual inner thoughts to drawing, my thoughts about the industry, where I actually share all of the knowledge that I have. Like, I've had a long career in art. Okay, I'm over 40 now. You could guess where in the 40s I am. I did that mistake of getting people to guess my last live. You know, 3 years ago, I'll say this. 3 years ago, I would say on my video, on my live stream, I go, hey guys, guess how old I am?
Yeah.
And people put up, 27, 30, 31. I'm like, you're wrong. You guys are too nice. I did this a few weeks ago. Let's just say it wasn't 31.
I think you fell into the George Clooney joke.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Because now you got a little bit of the
I got
silver.
a little gray.
You got a little bit of the silver.
Go on,
It's
get a little
silver.
gray.
It's silver.
Father time's undefeated.
Right?
Father time's undefeated, right? They usually say the Asians look a little bit younger, maybe, but Father time's undefeated. And people thought I was older than what I was. And that's fine. I accept it at this particular point. But with all of that, like, that's what these channels are for. I had a long career in art. And it's time that I want to share what I've learned with everybody else. And that's what I want to do. I think out of all the art YouTubers that are out there, not all of them, there's some there with very long and prolific careers, right? Mm-hmm. People who've worked for major companies, guys like Ross Draws or Trent Kalunga. I think that's how you say his name. I messaged him on LinkedIn recently, right? He's a renowned concept artist. But I think I have a lot more experience than most, which means I have a lot more knowledge to give than most. And it'd be foolish of me to keep that to myself. I want to share that knowledge.
I wonder if we can maybe try to share some of those, maybe even in just capsule form right now.
Sure.
If you could take 3 milestones,
okay,
right? And then maybe tell us what it is that you learned from them. Be it technical, be it motivational, be it whatever it is that you would want to touch on was the most important. What would they be? And maybe would they parallel with the 3 stages, I guess you could say, that you kind of established: the comic book artist, the VFX artist, and now the YouTuber. For
sure. And let me give you one for all 3. Okay. So let's start with the beginning of my career. Comic book artist. See, the very first milestone would be my very first fully penciled book, ongoing series. That is. It wasn't my first. My first pencil book was actually a Warlands book. It was from a company called Dreamwave. I believe it was Warlands number 0. That was my first one. And let me say, okay, can I tell this story? Let me just tell this story quickly. Okay,
let's go for it.
Me and my buddy. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, if you look this up, you'll find. I won't say any names. If you look this up, you'll know the names. Me and my buddy, we had an idea for a story for this book. So we went to go pitch it. We went to go pitch this book, okay? And then we wanted to do it together.
Yep.
He's going to draw, he's going to write. And then they're like, okay, whatever, right? So then, we didn't think anything of the meeting. And then my friend calls me up and like, hey, they called me. They want to come back and talk about the story.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're like, okay, great. So I go with him, right? So they welcome him in, and he goes, "Oh, James, you're here too? You're here too?" Like, yeah. It's like, "Oh, okay, come on in. I have a feeling they never outright said this.
Okay,
they never said this. So maybe it's just me. But I have a feeling they wanted to do the story, but not with me drawing it. I totally feel that they did that but they didn't have the heart to tell me no, right? They're very nice, okay? So they were like, it's a great story. And then he goes, James, this is going to be your first book. You have to kill it in this book. You got to work really hard.
So they let you do it?
Yeah, they let me do it. I was
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they did end up letting me do it. I was horrible. Learning experience, okay? But my very first book, Transformers Armada, let's say the series, okay? Because I don't want to stick it to just the first issue, okay? Because there's so much I learned in that particular series itself. Number 1 was about deadlines, okay? It was the first time where I read really, really hard-hitting deadlines where, for those people who don't know, comics is like an assembly line, okay? You have the writers, you have the pencilers, you have the inkers, you have the colorists, the letterers. People can't do their job without the other person doing it first, right? An artist can't draw without the person writing the script. The inker can't ink without the penciler doing his job first. So if you were that cog in that chain, right? If you were the reason, if you slow down, everybody slows down. Right. So everyone after me slowed down. And I was learning how to really put a deadline out when I'm the main penciler. Like I was a background penciler, and I did okay there. But I was very slow. I just say that. I was very slow. And it was really hard for me to kind of keep those deadlines here. But one thing that project taught me was really how a deadline, meeting a deadline, how important it was. Okay? Not just for the fact that it was making the company money, but it affected so many people after me that I felt it was the first time I really had to show that the work I do meant something to other people. Okay? Not just in terms of selling the book, but in terms of other people's livelihoods that were working with me. So it taught me how to work better as a team on that book in its own way. So I learned a lot. It's definitely a learning stepping stone. Yeah. Working on Armada, and so that's why it is more of a career highlight for me working on that.
You're only as fast as your slowest person.
Right. Exactly. Yes.
And if you're in the lead.
Yeah.
If you slow down, I guess you would consider the lead. It is just like, ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's the way comics is today too, right? And it's usually the penciler holding everybody up at the end of the day. There are some times where the writer holds people up, but it's either the writer or the penciler's the one, and everyone's just waiting. You got a page yet? Thinker's there. Can I ink now? And yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, here. When's this thing book due? 3 days. Here's 15 pages, inker. Go for it. Oh. Or the colorist, or the letterer.
Savage, yeah.
Or the letterer. That's just how it is because of the assembly line. So that's very, comics is very interesting in that way. But that was a great learning experience for me. Also, again, it was the first time that my work was really critiqued in a way. It was the first time I got feedback from the public. Like, again, we didn't have... well, there was internet, but not the way it is today. There was no Twitter or anything like that, but there were message boards. So it was the first time I actually got feedback on the type of work I was doing. I'm not sure if I told this story. I'm pretty sure I did. But Transformers Armada #3. Transformers Armada was based off a cartoon series. Okay. And there's these kids in these cartoon series, right? Mm-hmm. So I needed to draw the kids in issue 3. And I drew them in my Jim Lee-esque style, right? Everyone knows Jim Lee's like one of my all-time heroes. So my style was very much like a Jim Lee early Image comic style. So I drew them like that. And then the Hasbro said, "Hey, can you make them look more like the cartoon? Okay, can you make them look more like the cartoon because they, doesn't really look like them."
Less.
Yes, and I didn't want to draw like that. Yeah. I thought it didn't look good, right? So I'm like, I'll show them. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw the cartooniest, ugliest looking kids that you've ever saw.
Oh gosh.
So I went there and I tried to draw these so cartoony, these kids, right? And I handed that in. I'm like, that'll show them. They saw it and they went, "James, we love it." I'm like, And I'm like, great, they loved it. Unfortunately, nobody else did. For years after that, as long as I worked at Dreamway, they're like, "Oh, James is great at Transformers. Can't draw humans. Don't give James any humans to draw." For years I had that. Looking at it now, I can understand why, because it did look like the cartoon. When I did do it, it did look like the way the cartoon was drawn.
And too much so.
Yeah, too much so. And it's just, people are like, "Oh, these kids, oh, James, man." So... And they even told me afterwards, like the producers, like, why'd you do that? You should have just tried to alter it a little bit and kept your style, right? So I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have conformed. It's risky doing that. Sometimes when people give, for example, logos, like a graphic design, give a logo to a company, what they'll do is they have their logo that they really like, and they'll do some crappy logos. And they're just so so
the one that they want will stand out.
Exactly, right? And then the person that they're giving to, they'll feel good, like, "Oh, this logo, that's the one," right? So they can do that. So it's a little trick. That's what I was trying to do. Backfired. On the VFX side, let's say the very first one was I'm trying to think which one it was more important per se. Which one was more important per se? Because my very first job in VFX, it was working at MGM. I worked on a show called Stargate. For those of you who don't know, Stargate. It was my very first show.
That's awesome.
It was my very first. Oh, you know what? I will stay Stargate. I was thinking about Watchmen. That was my job after that. Mm-hmm. But the reason is that was my first full-time job in terms of an actual going to a place of work for 9 to 5-ish, right? But something regular hours. I never had that before.
This is when you moved to Vancouver.
Yes. When I moved to Vancouver, it was the first time living alone too. First time I'm living alone. You see, because I've always lived with my parents, and then I got married.
Yeah.
So I went from living with my parents to living with my wife.
Yeah.
At the same time, so I never lived on my own before. So because it was in Vancouver, I didn't want to bring my family over right away.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that before I sold, because we had a home, we had a house.
Yeah.
In the Toronto area. So before I would go and either rent it or sell it, I wanted to make sure that what I had there was stable, or is it just like a 6-month thing and then I'm coming home? Right. So I didn't want to move them over until I was sure. So I went by myself. So for the first 6 months, that was the first time ever I lived on my own. And it was the first time ever I had a full-time job.
Yeah.
And it was the first time ever I experienced boredom.
Wow.
Complete boredom. Because, in the comic book industry, even when you're not working, you're trying to get a portfolio together, right? You're trying to do stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So there's always stuff to do. And when you're actually working in comics, like 48 hours a day. I mean, it's impossible. 48 hours a day. There's more than 24 hours. Yes! When you work in comics, there better be. But this was the first time where I went to work and I left the work at work. And I came home.
Interesting.
And I was like, what do I do now? Yeah. So Fridays I would get home, because my family wasn't there. So Fridays I would go to the mall right after work. I'd go to KFC. KFC had 4 pieces for the price of 3 sale every Friday. So I would go there. I would eat it. And then on the weekend, I would go in on the weekend, and then I would just be bored. On Sunday, I would sit around, and I was like, what do I do now? So Sunday was my ironing day, right? So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll iron. So I did my laundry, and then I would iron every. I would have a set piece of clothing for every day of the week.
Yeah. So
I would iron those, even if they didn't need ironing. I would still iron them because I had nothing better to do.
Yeah.
And because back then this was like 2007, I believe, 2006, 2007. We had smartphones, but internet. We had internet, but it was on a computer upstairs, so it wasn't like I was on the internet all day long, or I could be on my phone all day long, like today. At least today, I would probably be on TikTok 48 hours a day, but 24 hours a day. There's only 24 hours in a day, people. I'm just saying that. But like then, so all I had was the TV, right? So I was just watching TV, and I'm like, man, I'm bored. So why don't I go to the mall again? So I go to the mall, I walk around, I'm like, I'm still bored. I go back. So I actually picked up. I picked up a side job. Like this guy wanted me to help him with his comics, so I did that on the side for a little bit, and then I ended up just doing some art on the side because I was so bored. And I've never experienced that before in my art career. It was the first time that I went to work, did my artwork at work, left it at work, came home, couldn't do the artwork anymore. So it was the first time ever.
Was there ever overtime?
It was definitely overtime, for sure. There was definitely times there were overtime. But for the most, in that particular job, it wasn't as much as it would be later on in my career.
Is it because they were already well established? They've already had, I think, 2 seasons under their belt by that time.
They did, and and especially when it comes to overtime.
Yeah.
For that, because it was very small, the VFX team was very small. So when they needed to do overtime, they better have a good reason for it.
Okay.
So they never really forced us to do overtime unless it was 100% necessary. So you had to have a reason to do overtime. So because of course they don't want to pay the time and a half at that time. So it was a lot more lighter in that sense. Now later on, once my family came, it was different because at least I had my family there. I could hang out with them. But that was the first time I experienced boredom. But more importantly, it was the first time I actually had a regular job. Going to a place of work, being there at whatever time that was, 9 a.m., staying there till 5, making sure I don't take too long at lunch, because if you do, they'll look for you funny when you come back. You come back. You know, actually having a VFX supervisor there going, where's this, where's that? You know, the first time ever I had that. And I remember one time I got to work early because I was struggling to finish this one shot. So I got to work early, like it's 3 a.m. So I'm in the building there. I didn't think anyone was in the building. So I'm there working, and then I'm like, oh, nobody's here. I'm gonna start singing. I start singing the top of the lights. I stand up. And all of a sudden I hear banging on the floor. Shut up! There's somebody working downstairs like, oh, sorry, man. Thought I was alone.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
I think somebody from the woodworking department was downstairs working. He's like, quiet up there.
So was the lesson never sing at work even when you think you're alone?
Yeah, maybe, yeah. When you're not alone, you might not be alone at work. There might be cameras at least, so be careful, right? But that was a fun job. I had a lot of fun at that particular job. But that was I would say that was probably that stood out to me because it was my first time doing that type of a job. Yeah. Right. So that's what I would say. Yeah. VFX. So that's VFX, and then we said YouTube.
Yeah. But before we go on to YouTube, you know, maybe not necessarily in that particular job, but in VFX in general, what would be the lesson that you like a big lesson that you took away? Maybe not connected to that particular milestone.
Oh, for sure. Like in VFX, it's number one. It's don't go to VFX to be famous. You're not going to be famous in VFX. Now, VFX artists, you can tell who the VFX. You go to the movie theater, you can tell who the VFX artists are. If it's not a Marvel movie and they're still there looking at the credits like this, that means they're looking for their name. Or they're looking for somebody they know. Especially if you're in the hotbeds. You're in Toronto, LA, Vancouver. Somebody's there at the movie theater. They're looking like this. And it's not a Marvel movie. They're most likely a VFX artist because they're looking for their name in the credits. And it does feel great when you see your name in the credits. But your job as a VFX artist is not to be seen. The job of a VFX artist, of VFX in general, is to supplement the story, right? To fill in the blanks. You're not supposed to know those things are VFX. If they do, it's either it's a big sci-fi thing where it can't possibly be real, or you didn't do your job properly. That means people look like, that doesn't look like a tree, right? Right? But they're supposed to look at it and say, hey, that's a real tree. They went out into the forest there, and that's a real tree there, and right?
I guess the infamous example from Justice League.
From Justice League, of course, the mustache, right? Yeah. And again, I think, it was done poorly enough where a VFX artist could point it out. But if nobody knew about it,
it probably.
Yeah, but the thing is, the moment somebody knows that something's fake, they're going to look for things. So, to me, it didn't matter how good that VFX was, somebody was going to notice because they knew it was fake.
One bad frame.
Right. Doesn't even need to be a bad frame because people knew that he had a beard because it was a huge story, right? People knew he had a beard.
So they're looking for it.
They're looking for it. They're looking for it. And anything that even looks slightly off, right? They're going to say, aha, poor VFX. Poor VFX there. A job of a VFX artist is to be invisible. I call it, I always tell my students, we're Houdini. Yeah. We're magicians. We make you believe the unbelievable at the same time. So it's not a place where you go and say, hey, look at my art. It's not. It's a completely different job. But it is cool to say, hey, I worked on this Avengers movie. I worked on this Star Wars movie. Yeah. People won't know what you did. But you could just say, hey, I worked on this, right? And that's cool. Like, unless you did, like, concept art, where you have something to show, really, other VFX artists, they don't really have anything to show, right? Until you show your breakdown and show how you actually did the shots, right? And nobody really sees that unless they're looking for it.
Like at the same time. Reel, would you say? Or,
demo reel, where you see the breakdown from the studio. Oh, look, we did this thing, like stagecraft, right? Like, they look at that you don't know about it unless you see a documentary on the stagecraft, what was actually real, what wasn't. And, a lot of people like to be experts because they heard something on Twitter or something like that about how VFX is done. Most of the time they're wrong, right? And that, like, for example, let me give you an example. It's like, I remember when Star Wars The Force Awakens first came out. And then everyone was going crazy, like, because, the prequels, everyone's like, oh, yeah, too much CG, the CG is horrible.
Very impressive.
I'd hoped you would be pleased.
For the time, it was excellent. For the time.
Uh-huh.
But there's like, oh, everything's practical. Oh, Force Awakens, all practical. And so I'm watching this trailer, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, okay. I'm watching it in the point of VFX artists. I'm like, okay, this shot here, I would say this point would be all VFX, but they're saying it's practical, so maybe they built out a little bit further. Nope, everything I thought was VFX in that trailer. They're just saying it just so people are happy. Right? They're like, no, this is the exact same amount of VFX. They're just saying it.
That's funny.
No, they do things, of course, like they'll do like more animatronics type stuff. They'll do that. Like, for example, in Rogue One, they had that one character that was all animatronic. I forgot his name. He's like this alien. And he opened his mouth and goes, looks really cool. Looked really cool. But there are shots where I know that was digital as well, right? So it's a mix of both. And that's what VFX is. It's a way for us to fool you into thinking what you think is real. The job of VFX artist is to make you sit down and fully be engulfed in the story itself. And say the landscapes look beautiful, but you want to be a part of the story, to supplement the story, not the other way around. And I think that's what people don't get when they're going into VFX. It's not a place to show off your art. Definitely not. If you want to do that, go to Instagram or go on TikTok and make some VFX on TikTok. Right? You'll get much more recognition than you would working in movies. But in movies, it's just fun to say, hey, I worked on Star Wars. I worked on the latest I worked on Squid Games, It's funny, too. Like, talking about Squid Games, and this will date this podcast, is that Mr. Beast is doing this whole live-action Squid Game thing.
Yeah.
And he put out this tweet the other day showing that the set that they're building for one of the games, right? And it's gigantic. It's huge. And it was funny because somebody commented like, "Hey, like you're building that set." When they didn't even do that in the movie, and they showed the thing of the movie, and it's all blue screen. It's all blue screen, and all the little people there on the thing, right?
Yeah.
But Mr. Beast is actually building the actual thing, and they're like, "You should have just got some VFX artists, Mr. Beast." Not necessarily would have saved some money, but that's what they did. It fools you. It fools you into thinking the unreal real, and that's one thing I learned when I was in VFX, right? So that's what I would say in terms of the VFX, right? So yeah.
How about YouTube now?
YouTube, oh boy, YouTube, because that's the career I'm at now. Still trying to make a career now. Yeah. It's interesting because there were a bunch of different types of milestones. Okay, and I will say, let's go back to one of my favorite pieces of all time, and that was the very first Star Wars piece that I did. I always say this. It's better to create your YouTube channel around community. I built a really fun community when I did that Star Wars piece. I really, really did. You were part of it. And I can list off some names now, but I know I'm going to forget some. And they're like, what about me? I was there, James! But people like PJ and Beck and Christopher and Nathan and maybe you could shout out some names. Tony and Taylor, yes, like all those guys, right? And apologize for those of you listening. Like, well, I was there, James. I know, I'm sorry. But there was a group of like 20, 30 people. Didn't matter what time of the day it was. Didn't matter what time of day it was. I could be working at 3 a.m, going at 4 p.m. The same people would be there every day drawing along with me. And some of them are doing some great work today. Like, again, Taylor's doing some wonderful things. Beck's doing some amazing things. We were talking about that the other day. PJ's doing his own things now, so proud of that dude. But it was that community that we had together, working together on that one piece, and that meant a lot to me. Yeah. That really did. It was a real support. That when I actually went and finished that piece, it didn't feel like I was the one who finished the piece. It felt like we finished the piece together. That's what it felt like to me. Now, it didn't get... And it's one of those things where you work so hard on some piece like that, and it's a different type of reward than views. Because unfortunately, the way YouTube works, you could work 100 hours on a piece of artwork, and it could get like 10,000 views. To some, that's a lot. But for the amount of work that you put in, some people think, oh, I need at least 1 million views for this. YouTube doesn't reward hard work in that way unless it's entertaining.
Right.
Unless the average person finds that entertaining, right? And then I went from that piece, which, sentimentally, my favorite piece. Sentimentally, probably my favorite piece on this channel. Well, on that channel was that piece because it was the first time I really experienced that community together. And then, like I was talking about earlier today, about that Iron Man video. 10 minute, 1 minute, 10 second. I only had an hour to work. I just wanted to get a video out. I did that quickly. Took 15 minutes to film, another 30 minutes to edit, threw it up, didn't think anything of it. 20 million views.
Your highest
performing video. Now, would that video perform today the way I did back then? Probably not. Probably wouldn't get anywhere near the views it would get back then. But it did teach me something about, it did teach me that YouTube changes and it evolves. And people look for different things on YouTube.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you want to be a YouTuber, you're probably better off doing things that you like to do. You want to be known for things that you actually like doing. And let me give you this example. Just say, for one reason, like you saying, ASMR. Oh, that's getting a lot of views. What if I do this art ASMR? And just say it works. Fantastic. But now you're the art ASMR guy. You'll try to do different types of videos. And they're not going to catch on as much as that ASMR because people are coming in for the ASMR stuff. Now, if you like it, fantastic. That's wonderful. Good for you. But
if you did it to get the initial.
But if it gets views, that's fantastic. But if that's not what you really like to do, even if it will get views, you're not going to be happy doing YouTube, right? Then you're just doing it for the money, or you're just doing it for the views. Someone who I greatly admire as a DPR drawing, recently, and when I say recently, like last year, did extremely well on the channel because started doing these flip books, right? These flip books, and I look at these flip books and the amount of detail that DP puts into these flip books, phenomenal work, right? Hundreds of hours putting into these things, and they get views. They get millions upon millions of views. I think one of them has like almost 100 million views, one of these videos. And then if you ask me, James, you could do that. No, I can't. I could do it. I don't want to. Right. No, because I don't want to be known for that. Because there's no way I'd want to do that again. Right? Because then I'd be the guy who did that, and then now I got to keep doing it.
Right.
Now, if I like doing it, and it's obvious that DP likes doing it, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. These days, I like making entertaining videos. And you see that in my recent videos. I like telling stories. I like making people smile. I like the fast-paced videos. I like entertaining people. I like creative shots. I love creative ways of showing how to draw. So that's why the videos that I've been putting out recently, that's why they kind of look like that. It's not to get views per se. It's because I enjoy the process more. And like the views are a byproduct. Views are definitely a byproduct of it. And it's great if they get views. But at the same time, this is the type of content that makes me happy. Now, I would be lying if I said that I am trying to optimize it for the views. And I know things like, for example, Marvel characters probably do the best on my channel as opposed to characters from other. Like, I'd love to do, like, for example, an Image Comics piece. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
But because I'm running a business, because I have employees, because I have a family to feed, it's probably not the best use of my time to do a gigantic Image comic piece. Maybe down the line, if I don't need to, if we get a little bit more in the bank going on, and just for fun. I can
or
go
if
off.
Image suddenly blows up and it's the next MCU somehow.
Yeah, if it becomes mainstream, but probably today no one could name you an actual Image, or the regular Joe Schmo on the street probably couldn't name a single Image Comics character.
You'd be lucky if Spawn came out.
Yeah, Spawn would probably be the closest, but not a lot of people know who Spawn is. So it's not really monetarily feasible for me to do that. So I'm trying to find things to do today that are a little bit commercial, so we could get those views, but also is fun. And we have videos in the pipeline right now that I've never been more excited for videos. Like, and you know what I'm talking about. We shot some things like a few weeks ago that I'm so excited to put out, or these things that are so excited to do.
Hard to be tight-lipped.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know.
This is going to come out before those come out.
Exactly. Right. So it's that's the thing about YouTube. I'm going to do it as long as it's still fun. And all these new channels that I'm putting together, I do want to be that inspiration for people, if I can. And we talked about that earlier. And it's one thing that we're doing. That's why this podcast is here today. That's why that's why I decided to continue this podcast. Long-term goals, I talked about wanting, and I mentioned this on the channel before, I want to do a documentary. That's long-term, maybe next year. I want to write a book. Everything that we're going to learn from all these artists, I would love to put this in a book form so that a kid could just take that and then show their parents. Or even a short documentary just to show the parents what's possible.
Well, like you were saying at the beginning here, when you're like, there's a reason why I like reading biographies.
Right.
Is because in this little form here, you can learn all of the lessons.
Right.
That person learned.
Right. Exactly.
In your own life. Right?
Exactly. Right. And that's why also a documentary would work really well for what I want to do, because sometimes give a parent a book about things, they probably won't read it. You give them even like something short, like a 20-minute video explaining all the different possibilities.
A clip.
Yeah. All the different possibilities of what a creative kid can do if they decide to continue being creative. Right? And that could be anything from acting to sculpting, painting, whatever, and show them the limits, right? Or what's possible.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm sure for a lot of these parents, it's stuff they didn't even think would be possible, right? And again, it's for me, that 12-year-old kid back in the day, whose parents had no idea what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
Had no idea how the kid can make money doing drawing comic characters. That's what I would like to share with all these kids, and and I know I have a lot of international fans as well, or people who like to follow me. They're international. What about for them? Like, talk to people that are from their part of the world and how they made it, or how they're still making it, still living in their part of the world. And that's possible. In today's climate, that's totally possible. And that's something I do want to share with everybody at the end of the day. So if this YouTube channel and these YouTube channels are a catalyst for that, then that makes it worth continuing to do at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, in terms of having all of these channels and everything under your belt, the evolution in terms of the output and the product that you bring out to YouTube has changed. But I'd imagine that the way that your day is arranged has also changed.
Yes.
Over time. So these days, right now, as a person who has to do the illustrations for the main channel and is also, like directing and the pace and where these other channels are going.
Right.
What does a day look like for you?
Okay, and this is a wonderful question, and it will change. It has changed a lot, but one thing that hasn't changed is I'm a morning person. Way back till 2016, and those who were watching me in the early parts, those early live streams, they know I work super early. And for some reason, that's just the way my body functions. I like early mornings.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I've tried so hard, and I even explained to you and my workers, it's better for the business if I work later, right? For the West Coast market and all that stuff, right? And still be the East Coast market, they're still awake. It's better if I work late into the night. But for some reason, my body said no. Gotta wake up early.
Said it just like that,
right?
Too.
Nah. So my typical day. And probably this is what it really is. I will wake up anywhere between 2 and 3 o'clock naturally. I will. Naturally, yeah. No alarm. I'll just actually wake up.
Wow.
2 to 3 o'clock, and I'll get up and look for my phone. Probably not the best thing to do. I'm hoping to change this a little bit, but I usually get my phone. I quickly do an analytics check.
Yep,
the YouTube's all, and that's how you know that you love what you're doing. If that's the first thing you think of, how's the analytics?
Yeah.
Go right away. Quick analytics check, quick email check. Go, have a little bit of caffeine, head to the office, and then I will start to work. Now, by the time this airs, I will go live in the mornings, whether that be for a watch along with like if there's an MCU show that will drop. At this point in time, Hawkeye is going to come out in a few weeks, so I'm going to be watching Hawkeye live Wednesday mornings. But if not, then I'll be working on something.
Live.
Live, right? And that will be up till roughly around 6:30ish in the morning, 6:30 to 7 in the morning. From then, I have to stop because I got to get the kids ready for school. So 7 o'clock, between 7:45ish to 7:45ish, I need to get the kids' lunches ready. Got to get everything ready, wake the kids up, get them ready for school. The kids are my priority. They're the reason I'm doing all this. So I need to be there for them. So wake them up, get them ready for school, go drop them off for school. That takes me till roughly around 9 o'clock. Now, depending when my workers get in, sometimes they get 8, sometimes they get 9. Meet them with them in the morning, try to figure out what we're going to be doing for that day, and then execute. Now, the best time for me to work is in that morning period of time. I feel, for some reason, I just work better in the morning. If I get anything else done during the day, it's gravy. But I will be working on the more elaborate pieces during the day. So I will usually from 9:30 to around, I would say 12ish, right? So we'll get some work done. Whether that be I'll be working on some TikToks with you, my friend, or we're working on something podcast, or working on some React with Joe. We'll get that done that period of time. Go for a quick lunch. Have a little bit of time before in the afternoon. Get some drawing done, maybe. Okay, but it's hard to say. Like every day is different. Around 2:30, I have to go out and go pick up the kids from school, and that will probably bring me to about 4 o'clock. And depending on when the workers leave, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. Just to brief them at the end of the day, and I try to make sure that my workers aren't thinking of this when they go home. Though I think that's hard for them as well. I think that's because that's when you know you're doing something fun.
Yeah, just for the joy.
If you still think about this stuff when you go home, right? So if they're still thinking about it, okay, we're still having some fun. But I prefer you don't. I prefer you don't think about this stuff. Go live your life.
Hey, which is rare in this.
Yes.
This interview. So
yeah. We'll come back. We'll work on it the next day. And that's one thing I hope to do with this channel is that because I'm the one setting the time. There really is no hard deadlines unless we have like a brand deal that needs to get out and the company is expecting us to deliver on a certain period of time. But I want my workers to feel, refreshed and work the best they can under the amount of time that we have. So that's why I would prefer that you guys don't really think about this stuff when you go home, if that's possible at all, or go think of your own things. By that time, you don't. But by that time, the kids are home, and then in that early afternoon, I'll go and I'll make dinner for the kids, and then I'll have dinner with the kids, and then just hang out with the kids afterwards. Okay, and depending what we're doing that evening, that could be me helping them with their homework. It could be us watching a movie together. But I usually go to bed probably around. It could vary between 8 and 10 o'clock. 8, 9, 10 o'clock, something like that. I probably don't stay up later than 10. Because I get up at like 2 or 3. Yeah, I get up at 2 or 3. So sometimes these guys would message me like at 10 and I don't answer and I'll answer at like 2 or 3 in the morning. I'm like, hey guys, just got your message. Just got your message. Here you go. But that is my typical day. It's a day that works for me. And but the one reason I did bring on and decide to hire, like I didn't really hire people before, even though I could have. I didn't really hire people before because number one, I was actually saving up to full disclosure to everybody, I was planning on adding a second level to my home, and I was saving up for that. So I was very hesitant to spend money, even when it came to equipment. And you see the equipment I have now, it's getting better, but nowhere near what it should be in terms of production or what I could afford. Of course, I could afford better equipment, but it's more, I was saving because that was my plan to build up. But now, after everything's happened, I decided to instead invest that money back into the business to help the business grow and to build up all these new channels. And that's why I hired help, because I know I can't, there's no way I'd be able to run a React channel and the TikToks and the shorts and the podcast all on my own. There's no way I'd be able to do that. But having people that I've worked with in the past, that's why Joe's here and Mark, they worked with me before. I loved working with them. That's why they're here, to help me, which I'm comfortable. We're good friends. And to be honest, the side effect of that is coming to work is more fun. It's much more fun than it was when I was just here by myself where it was so easy just to turn on the TV or just look at my phone. Before I was like, oh, gotta pick up the kids. So, because to be honest, before you guys started working here, that's what would happen. I had this piece on my desk for a long time, and sometimes I would just kind of sit here like this.
It's easy to lose track of time.
yeah.
Right? Like,
I was like,
it's just you at the desk, right?
Right. But this is the most fun I've had.
Yeah.
Working on the project, and again, it just makes it easier to get through every day, having you guys here. So that's pretty much my typical day. Definitely not the typical day of an artist. A lot of artists are night owls. I know a lot of artists that would work extremely late into the night. And again, if ever I want for my live channel to grow, most likely it's better if I work at the nighttime. But for now, this is what works for me. Mm-hmm. This is what makes me comfortable. And will that change in the future? Probably, most likely. Yeah. But we'll see. Yeah, you never know. But that's what's working for me now these days. So.
Well, speaking of time, an hour a day.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
I can do this all day.
But in the interest of time,
yeah.
Would you mind if we shot maybe just a couple quick round questions?
Okay. Sure.
And to end it off for now.
Okay.
And
let's do it.
And then sign off. What do you think?
Let's do it. Sounds good.
All right.
I don't know how fast I'll be, but we can give it a shot.
Well, we'll leave it to a few.
Okay. Sounds good.
Right. The first one needs a little bit of a preamble here, right? Mm. Like going back to the college days, or even before the college days, when you were going to a comic shop and picking up a comic book. This whole idea of YouTube, which you are now, the concept of it wasn't even there yet.
Right.
Right? So you having to be the face of the entertainment, the business side, the one who's doing the drawing, the title and job conventions that we grew up with, they don't apply to this.
Nope.
So what would you say if someone asked you, what do you do? What is there a title that you would label? How would you describe what it is?
But if you would have asked me before,
yeah,
I would have been like, I wouldn't even have used the word influencer before. I would just generically call myself an artist because people wouldn't get it. But today I have no problem whatsoever calling myself a YouTuber because that's reality. That's what my job is, because my job is more than just art now. Right, it's more entertainment. It's filmmaking. And art is just like a part of it, a significant part of it, but definitely a part of it. Like I don't feel confident calling myself an influencer yet, not till I feel like I have a significant influence on everything. Now, someone will already say I already have. Right, me personally, I think I could influence more than so. That's why I'm hesitant to call myself an influencer now. But I am more than willing to call myself a YouTuber because that's exactly what I am. So I don't even call myself an art YouTuber. I am a YouTuber, right? I make videos on YouTube and for the most part rely off the money off YouTube to support myself as well as the business itself. So at the end of the day, I'm a YouTuber. That's what I would call myself.
And interestingly enough, it's something like that sort of title, I'd say even 4 years ago, people would be like, what's a YouTuber?
Yeah,
but now,
exactly.
Now people are like, okay.
Well, which is why I always tell my kids too, and something I learned: if they found a job that I have no idea what it is, right? Yeah. And they came up to me and said, "Dad, I want to be a fluffer buffer."
Sure.
Or whatever, a kerfluffer or whatever. Yeah. I don't know why I'm calling it that, right? Whatever that is, I'll say, well, first of all, it's your life. You do you have to do what makes you happy. But I would love to see how you can make money doing that, right?
A living, if you will.
Yeah, at least prove to yourself that you could make a living doing the kerfluffler, right? Whatever. Because, like you said, there was no YouTuber back then. So who am I to say that, I'd never heard of that. You can't make a living off of that. Yeah. It has opened my eyes to being more open to whatever my kids want to be in terms of their career when they get older, right? So so I don't know, right? Even for the artist, like we're just at the first step here, right? Artists are on YouTube. Artists are on TikTok and doing a killing on TikTok. Like, we don't know what else is out there for the artist. Yeah. There could be a whole new set of artist jobs next year, like crypto, like NFTs. Yeah. NFTs now, right? There's a whole new job, right? Yeah. We're teenagers, like little kids are getting millions for selling these NFTs now, right? So it's stuff that wasn't there before. So I'm definitely much more open now than I was in the past, definitely, for sure.
Next question. Do you like being your own boss?
It has its ups and its downs. Let's just say that. So I won't. I'll say yes. I do like the freedom I get.
Yep.
And especially being a single dad now, it allows me the freedom I wouldn't have if I had a boss right now. But when you have a boss, there's a lot of things you don't have to think about. I don't have to think of payroll. I don't have to think of the business side. All I have to think about is getting my job done on time. That's all I got to think about, being at work on time. But it takes away those freedoms of, oh, I need the afternoon off, or I have to go pick up my kid, or, you know, or maybe I need a few days off, whatever. I don't have that freedom anymore. So there are pros and cons to doing what I'm doing. Now, of course, I can always hire people to do the things I don't like to do, right? And which is what I'm doing. I have someone I trust completely to handle the payroll and the money side, which helps me so much. So I could freeze me up for, you know, things I like to do. And then things that I like doing, but I know people are better at, I have no problem doing that as well. That's why I got you doing the podcast. You know, that's why I hire you guys on, because then I can solely focus what I need to. And the thing is, I make those decisions. Nobody's making those decisions for me.
Creatively.
Yes. And the thing is, I live and I die by my own decisions too. I could be completely wrong. Or this could be the completely wrong way to go in terms of my business, for all I know. I don't know. But it's fun finding out. Yeah. It definitely is. And at the same time, I'm in a position where if I fail, it's okay. I wouldn't do this if it meant I was going to lose my house or something like that. If that was the case, I wouldn't have done this at all. But I feel like I'm in a position I can take that risk and do that, right? So, and it's, I will say, it's nothing like, I will say I do enjoy this better than working for someone else. I definitely do. It's definitely more hours. You think you're crazy hours that an artist works, crazy hours that a VFX artist work. Anyone in VFX will tell you that. You're being your own boss, you're working even crazier hours. But at the end of the day, you're rest assured with, this is mine. And with the help of everyone's helping me, like you guys, we're building this something great. That's what I feel, right? And that's a feeling unlike anything else, right? So, yes, I highly enjoy this, though I do see the value and how people would like just being hired by somebody, right? So it's the difference of being like a CEO of another company, right? Like the CEO of Disney, gigantic job, bigger than what this business can be, for sure. But it's a different type of job. Yeah. Different type of pressure. And that person has somebody to answer to, whether it be their own boss or their shareholders. They have people that they're responsible for. Me, it's all on me at the end of the day. My job is to make sure that you guys working, you guys can live, right? So I only have my kids as dependents. I got you guys as dependents in terms I want you guys to have a good life and make a good living at the same time, right? And that's on me at the end of the day. So there's pros and cons to both sides. But again,
hey man, we got to do a good job and not mess up the edits either.
Yes. Yeah. But again, the most fun I've ever had in my career right now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We were talking about musicians earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Future version of you.
Oh.
If you were to look back at your career as it turned out, which musician's career would you want yours to parallel?
Right? That's a good question. Because here's the deal. Like you have people like, and we mentioned Madonna before,
yes,
where she was able to, like throughout the 80s, 90s, 2000s, she had points in there. There were ups and downs, but she had points on all those decades where she was on top. I'm a realist too. At the same time, that's very hard for YouTube. YouTube is so young, where like it's only been like 15 years right now. YouTube's been around. Where
doesn't sound young, but really it is.
Yeah, and then you figure out who has been around that's quote unquote relevant since 2006. Only a handful, very very few.
If that. Yeah,
exactly. Even 5 years ago, handful.
Yeah,
very handful. So, I would like to be Boyz II Men. You have your greatest hits. You know, you had your time where you were like, oh, they were the band. All world tour, but now. They're like a legacy act, right?
Yeah.
They go around, they still tour, they have their dedicated fans who would follow them to the end of earth, go to watch them because they always love their music. They'll put out some new stuff, but you know people love the classics and all that stuff.
And they're fine.
And they're fine. They're fine.
Yeah.
They're still entertaining. That's what I want to be. Okay, so we've had our hits. We're still growing our hits, but then at the end of the day, we have our set community, people that I know, get to know, that are more than just followers of mine. They will be my friends, right? And they want to follow me around. We hang out. We have a good time on YouTube. Enough for me to be able to support my family, and I'm good. I'm more than happy. Now, if it turns out to be Madonna level, sure, why not? I don't mind.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Boys to men, okay. I'm happy. I'm happy. We can kick out the bass anytime. You kick out the bass. He wasn't doing much.
All right. Last one, and this one's important for, for the pod. Let's go back now. Okay. To the early you, the one who just started getting interested in art.
Yes.
Thinking about where they can go with this.
Right.
What would you tell that version of you if you had a moment to speak with, say, the 10-year-old James right now?
Right. Okay. The 10-year-old James? Well, first of all, I would tell them that art is definitely a career, because the 10-year-old James didn't know that. Art is definitely something. You could definitely make a living. In the future, you can make a living doing exactly what you love to do. But also, be open that could be something you don't think it is. For the longest time, I thought comics was it. I was going to be this world-famous comic book artist.
I remember.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as I made that decision, I'm going into comics, I'm going to be the next Jim Lee. Just draw comics for the rest of my career. And again, like speaking to my buddies like Francis Manipul, like comics is their life, and they absolutely love it. Fantastic. Wonderful. I couldn't be more than happy for them. But I realized after a while that it wasn't what I thought it was. And it wasn't for me. And then I thought, okay, I'm going VFX. And then when I first started VFX, I'm like, hey, when I started modeling, I was like, oh, yeah, this is great. This is totally me. And then later realized, yeah, I like it. But it's really not me. So I would tell the younger me that to be open, that you're young, there's plenty of time to figure out what you want to do and what kind of art is right for you. And to try to experience every single type of art that there is. Maybe I would have tried more things, right? Maybe I would have tried more, or branched out a little bit, or maybe even went to school a little bit earlier than I did in terms of going back into film, because I think it was like 6 years until I went back to school. I would have tried more things, definitely, and I wouldn't have been in such a rush, because you know when you're young, you're always like, oh yeah, I got to be the youngest guy ever to work at Marvel. I'm going to be the youngest guy ever to get his own book or be in the Wizard. Wizard Magazine had a top 10 artist. To be a Wizard Magazine top 10 artist, I'll be the youngest ever. Well, no, you don't have to be. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody cares if you're young or old. Nobody cares. What matters is that you take your time and figure out what's right for you. And what you think is right now at 10 years old most likely won't be the right thing. But you won't know unless you try it. And there's plenty of time to try. I got into YouTube when I was 38 years old. Actually, younger than that. Sorry. I was younger. I think it was like 36 when I actually tried YouTube. I decided to quit my job at 38 years old. Now, for a lot of people watching, 38 is ancient, right? It's ancient, right?
It's the time
Old
when
people.
Most people around that age would probably be like, well, I'm more interested in a secure thing.
Right, exactly. Right, you gotta be setting your career.
Yeah.
By the time you're 25, or it's over. It's over, man. Oh, it's not true, man. I've learned that life could be short and life could be long. Now you can't bank on life being long. You can't. But you have to live your life that it can be. You do want to try to experience as much as you can. Every day. And that's where that confliction comes in a little bit, right? Because I've seen life being short. And I also know that life can be long, because I've seen both. The thing is, we don't know. But you won't know what you like unless you try it. Yeah. You don't know. So it's worth the try. Try doing comics. Try doing animation. Try doing painting. Try doing sculpting. Try everything, because you don't know You don't know if you're going to like it or not unless you actually go out and do it. And to the 10-year-old James, the 18-year-old James, the 20-year-old, even the 30-year-old James, even the 40-year-old James, technically, unless I get hit by a bus or something bad happens, or I catch some sort of sickness, whatever, there's still time to try. And you won't know what you like unless you try at the end of the day. So that's what I would say. All right.
Should we leave it at that?
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let's leave it at that. Yeah, this was fun. We could always talk more as the business
We absolutely
progresses
could, man. This,
along the way, and and for sure, even in my mind, there's lots I could have said in this. But at the end of the day, and that's what this podcast is for, is that if you can't try on your own right now, maybe you are a 10-year-old or 15-year-old, you can't go do movie posters for Marvel.
Yeah.
But maybe I can introduce you to someone who has. You can't go work on video games right now. You're in school, but maybe I can introduce you to somebody who has. And maybe let them tell you what it's really like to work in those fields. So it's a way for you to try. Way for you to figure out maybe this is right for you. Or maybe this is a type of business that you would like to do at the end of the day.
Or maybe even, if not directly, indirectly, lessons that are learned from yourself.
Absolutely.
Or some of the guests on this podcast.
For sure.
Hey, you know what? They tried it this way. Let me try it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And that's what all of this is about. All of this is, and if this could help a few people, and I'd be over the moon. I'd be so happy if this could help even one person. Or if it's just like an entertaining talk for people to listen to while they're going to work or while drawing. If I could provide that entertainment, if we could provide that entertainment for them, why not? Right. So, hopefully, this could be beneficial for all of us.
Well, brother, this has been very cool. I mean,
Right on.
we've talked countless times,
Yes.
formally, informally. Every single time, there's always been at least one new nugget,
Yeah.
something that I haven't even heard before.
Right,
You
right.
know what I mean? And we go way back.
Yes.
But,
Yes. For sure.
I think there were a number of things that you dropped
Right.
that at least I haven't heard before.
Right
So
on. Oh, that's
I
great.
think there's a lot of things here, especially on the learning side of things.
Yes.
That'll be hugely valuable. So
Well,
I can't wait to cut this thing up.
that's
see
great.
what's going on.
And hopefully everyone enjoys all the content that we're trying to put out, and we would love to hear the questions that they would have. Right. So if anyone would have any questions for me, maybe we could do like a monthly Q&A or something like that, where I would sit down and answer their questions.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
Comment it below, guys.
Yeah, comment below.
Let us know.
Yeah.
If there's anything that was missed, or,
Yeah.
or something that you want to be have expanded on.
Yeah.
From the conversation we had today in this particular topic.
Yeah, and then this is not planned, but that's actually a great idea, I think, for the podcast, is that having a monthly Q&A with me.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, monthly Q&A with me.
I heard
Drop your questions down. It doesn't necessarily have to be in this video. It could also be in any of the other podcast videos. And I'll be more than happy to answer your questions and anything that you have. And that would be fun. This is going to be a fun journey. It
There's
definitely will be.
evolutions, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, brother.
Right on. All right, my friend.
Well,
yes,
thank you so much.
thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Thank
It's
you.
been fun as always,
Yeah.
and every day,
Yes.
Monday to Friday.
Yes, right.
Sometimes on the weekends from this point
Let's do it.
on. All right. So,
And you know what, Mark?
yeah.
And everyone else? I'm your best friend.